today I'm wearing a Flamingo shirt because I'm calling it Flamingo Fridays, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm a big fan of printed shirts. I did not realize that I liked little figurines of things on my person until my 40s. I don't know if that's a 40-year-old thing or not, but I'm embracing it and kind of loving it.
I did the printed shirt thing for a while, not like that, but like I went for patterns for a while, and then now I'm just like, just give me solids, just give me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
You're
doing
going
like
full
the
Steve
Obama
Jobs. Is that
method,
it?
or the Obama, which is like he apparently he had like 2 or 3 suits, and he was like, I don't have time
Right.
like make decisions about what I wear, and like I don't with the girls and the dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just gonna put on clothes in the morning, and if I just have easy stuff, then it's just easy.
Yeah. No, I get that
So
too. There's
good for
the
you for your
minimalist approach is
flamingo
great.
shirt.
Was that?
Good for you for your flamingo shirt.
Oh, I love it. It's fantastic
You know why flamingos are pink?
because they are in the sun all day. I have no idea. I have no
No,
idea.
they are pink because of all the shrimp they eat. So they would be naturally white, but the shrimp turns them pink.
Is that for real?
That's for real.
Oh, wow.
That's a
That sounds like the type
verified.
of thing you'd say that sounds true, but you're like, I don't know.
And it could be that because I mean that's I just heard that somewhere and I repeated it. I repeated it as fact because I'm like Chat GPT. Just repeat things and make things up and say they're facts.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is that
No, I don't.
the fact that the flamingo ingests so many shrimp, apparently, that it turns itself pink.
Hmm.
We've ingested so much essay feedback from reading kids' essays over the year that
Mm.
it hasn't made us turn pink, but I think we both realized that a lot of feedback that teachers give students is very similar. And we've been kind of hoping for a way to kind of up our feedback without having to up our time because we already spend a lot of time. So today in the show, we've got a person that we think is going to help teachers give feedback on written work in a way that's constructive and helpful in a formative way.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. The bot brothers.
Well, how about showing us around my essay feedback, and we'd love to see a demo of it. I think anyone else who's listening, we're probably gonna try to like narrate what we're seeing as you go, since this is mostly a podcast. When we'll put it on YouTube,
Cool.
we'll clip out Eric's demo here. But if you're in your car right now or walking your dog, which is when I listen to stuff, we'll kind of try to at least show you what we're seeing.
Okay, so basically the gist of it is you're an instructor and you create a course. I have a course created here. I try to make things as straightforward as possible, again, because I teach as well. You just need to give it a name, a term, and then students can either enter using an access code that you give them or Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, so through your LMS. So once the course is created, you just have to create an assignment. So again, I've created one already. You just give it a name, provide some instructions, and then the type of feedback that you'd like the AI system to be using. So right now I have about 7 or 8 types of feedback. I'll talk a little bit more about how to make new feedback, but basically you can choose one of the ones that you have here, and you can get more information about that particular feedback. There's a button right next to it to show you that information.
And to be clear, Eric, so real quick, with your type of feedback, there are names within them, right? So like you have one to click on Anna Mills for like feedback on a thesis, right? So is it fair to say that when they pull up that type of feedback, that's the prompt essentially that she generated and it's attributed to her? Is that correct? So
That's exactly right.
that's the source of it. Okay.
It's exactly like right. Here's Anna's writing brain.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Anna, along with, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, but Anna, along with several other instructors, were kind enough to create. I haven't created any feedback. They've created their feedback and they've made it public so that anybody can use their feedback.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
So does that mean that others could also contribute types of feedback or prompts, or is it, or like I don't want to detract from I guess the direction you're heading, but is that something that's available or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, the two main pieces of the website are, creating the course and the assignment, and then creating new feedback. That's pretty much
Okay.
in a nutshell. And I'll show you that piece after we go through an assignment.
I'm super excited about this.
I've got a great question. I want to tie it to Ethan Mock later. Oh my gosh. Okay. I might super geek out on you. Okay. Sorry. I'll just put a pin in it. I'll let you go.
So then optionally as an instructor, you can say whether you want your students to have a feedback reflection or not. And I'll show you what that looks like, whether you want them to have a revision plan as part of it. I'll show you that in a minute. And then the grading is not AI grading. I want to be very clear about that. The AI is purely, did they complete the tasks that you asked them to? So in this case, the student will get credit if they just upload an essay and view the response. You could say that they need to ask the AI system a follow-up question, or at least do
Great.
follow-up.
Nice.
The student will get credit if they have at least 5 words in their feedback reflection. The student will get credit if they have at least 5 words in their revision plan. So that's the gist of the assignment. Optionally, if you're not into this, you can grade it manually. So put in whatever grade you want, or you don't even need to assign a grade.
So
that right there is a huge time saver. Like if you're just wanting to see if the student viewed the response, or if you're like, I want you to have a feedback reflection, because it auto grades it and you can just quickly look and be like, oh, 5 of my 125 didn't, and I can circle back and catch up with them.
That's exactly right.
Otherwise, you have to click through everything, right?
So Eric, you're saying though that like if I write a student writes a paper, they submit it, and then it's almost kind of like 2 assignments. There's the assignment of writing the paper itself, and then there's the assignment of actually getting the feedback, like eliciting the feedback essentially, and it can kind of track that, is what you're saying?
That's exactly right. So again, we're focusing on this student engagement throughout the process. So, okay, so let me go into the assignment. So this is the instructor view. Nobody's uploaded anything yet. And all the instructors get a student view button so that they can actually see what the heck the thing looks like. Okay, so here we see the assignment will get full credit. I'm a student. If I upload an essay, write at least 5 words for my feedback reflection, and write at least 5 words in my revision plan. So let me actually do that. I'm going to paste in some content.
Well, and so as Eric's kind of pulling that together, for our listeners, obviously they'll be able to check this out on YouTube. We'll have it posted. So much like with like say Dan Jones episode we had, you can take a look and see how this website functions. Of course, you can always go to myassayfeedback.ai, right?
Right.
And that's how you get into it. And I think there's like an access code associated with it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you could just do the contact form, shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to give out an action.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so I'm the student. What I did is I pasted in my text and I hit enter, and immediately the AI system is providing feedback, again, based on what the instructor wanted the feedback to entail.
Okay.
If you'll notice, I haven't gotten any credit yet for completing this because the AI system has not completed its response yet. And if the student just leaves right now and closes their browser, they won't get their credit. A couple of other things as it is giving me more information. The student's able to view their content alongside, which might be helpful for them. And I mentioned...
So okay. So you're saying that just for our viewers or listeners, they had the feedback on one side and the essay on the other, so they're kind of like mashed up. So it's easier to kind of follow the two, so you're not toggling between, say, tabs or something like that.
Exactly. Students are allowed to ask a follow-up question down here, and it would just produce more information. Looks like I got my credit for uploading the essay, so I want to get my credit for the feedback reflection. There's some text here to kind of inspire students what they might want to have in their feedback reflection. A couple of questions. Does the feedback seem to accurately reflect what you wrote? So again, it's having them reflect upon it. What do you think of any suggestions offered, etc.?
Those are great. because I can picture a student going through this and thinking, well, what do I even ask?
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly.
So at least it gives them some options. And the more they use it, the more kind of accustomed to the types of questions they could even ask. And maybe they stick with the ones that are prescribed here, or maybe they start kind of generating their own or modify them.
Exactly.
So that's brilliant.
And these are from, to give credit where credit is due, Anna Mills wrote these.
Right.
So
Thank you,
anyway,
Anna.
These are
Yeah.
very familiar feeling questions that if you've taught writing for a while, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So
she's a pro.
I wrote
She's a
my
pro.
5 words of my feedback reflection for the folks at home. I just wrote SDF, 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 SDF.
And that's exactly what my sophomores will do.
Yeah. So I got credit
I
for
did it. I got the credit.
Here's my revision plan, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Okay. So click save. Before I close this tab, I wanted to point out a couple of other features here. Students can contact their instructors through a form up on top. Doesn't work for the test student, but for everybody else, it does work. And the instructor will get a link, which basically brings this student's assignment directly up. So you don't need to like hunt around for it or anything.
Oh, it's awesome.
And then another piece of this is I talked about earlier, interpreting the feedback, that not all the feedback is going to be good. And again, I think that's great. Interpreting the feedback, there's a pop-up here, one of the bullet points. Some of the feedback may be bad, may get what the essay says wrong, and may not align with your purpose as a writer. So these are things that students should be thinking about. They shouldn't just be taking this for, it is what it is. We want them to be thinking critically. So I guess, I think I mentioned it, but AI literacy is a big part of this platform.
I love that too, because it's for those teachers who are just trying to get their feet wet with AI and they're not too, I guess, well versed on it yet. They can look at that and say, oh, that, and it makes sense. It's pretty straightforward and clear, but it's a nice reminder for them too. Or it gives them something to share with the students. Say, hey, check this out, just so you're aware.
Well,
that's nice.
It's instant usable for anyone that's taught writing and has done feedback. It's just like, hey, you can, like, a lot of our freshman teachers will like just work on thesis, like opening paragraph and thesis, right? And like you just drop it in here, and they can get feedback and rework and get feedback and rework and get it's just. And you don't have to prompt Chat GPT. You don't have to understand it. You can just go focus on the thesis. I want thesis feedback. And once you get used to the system, you can be like, you can probably write your own, right? Like, I want you to.
That's right. And we'll get to that as well in just a second.
All right. I'll stop talking.
No, you're like the perfect lead-in guy. So, speaking of feedback,
this is all rehearsed. It's all scripted.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So closing this modal, this pop-up, you'll see now the student gets their green. They got their credit for all of these things. So they uploaded the essay, they had the feedback reflection, and they had the revision plan. They can always go back and open it back up to take a look at what they did. And exiting the student view, you'll see that now the instructor has exactly what the student just saw. So they can see this in an organized manner. In addition, to kind of close the feedback loop, the instructor can add their own feedback.
There it is.
Why did you say SDF, SDF, SDF?
Well, because before I did SDF, SDF, it's just way easier to type.
And your response as a teacher is blah, 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 blah.
Now it's blah, 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 blah. Okay.
That's great, though, because then you can see what they've actually said. You can see how they're engaging with it. Exactly. That's super important.
Exactly. So that really is the gist of it. The other piece of the puzzle then is, hey, how do I even get those types of feedback? So just as a reminder, let me go back to editing this assignment. We saw that there were about 10 or so types of feedback here. So now what I'm going to do,
there was even an annotated bib polish one I just saw.
Yeah, I
thought you'd like that, Pat.
I just got excited. Actually, I'm more of a fan of just bibliographies or works cited more than annotated ones, but just the fact that like anything around that is just kind of
just get you in that sweet spot, doesn't it?
It did. He's talking my love language, Michael.
Wow.
Actually, he was when he was talking about hiking because
I know.
I was telling him, I
know.
was like, because I was born out in Washington. I love that state. Been
Oh,
over here, North Cascades. It's so beautiful out
yes,
there.
exactly.
Man, I wouldn't have a problem living out there at all.
The best. We'll do a live show next time.
There we
I think.
go. There we go.
All right, so I just clicked on the types of feedback tab, and that's the only other piece of the puzzle here. And
So this is like a list of all the prompts for the feedback. So if you were kind of looking for something, you could quickly go through there. And yeah, so what Eric's showing if you're driving your car or walking your dog is it's just like this big. It's not a spreadsheet. It's just like a big scrolly page, but it has like a name, like what I'm looking at. It says paragraph structure and sentence flow, and it has guidelines and then initial instructions and then the person who did it. Right. So you can quickly scan through, and like the next one's thesis, effective use of evidence, right? Like if that's what you want your kids to be focused on, right? And you could try that one out.
Can I ask kind of I don't know if this is too nerdy of a question, but like I'm looking at this list that you're scrolling through, and like if enough people are using it, it's going to get unwieldy, right? So is there some sort of structural, organizational sort of mechanism that is or will be in place so that if, say, teachers start using this, you're nodding your head, you're like, I know where you're going with this. So can you maybe speak to that? Because it would be a lot to filter through. Or is there like a ranking that could be done so that people like, these are really good, or, you know what I mean?
I literally had somebody ask that same question at another Zoom that I had early this morning. Once I have to be honest, I don't even really look at these.
Okay.
You know, these are instructor inspired, and yeah, it's getting kind of long. So I'm going to put in something that is basically you said the same thing that he said, which was, you know, sort by most popular, search by author, maybe do a keyword search. Yeah, that's actually on my list of things to do next week.
Okay. Great.
That'd
be a wonderful feature to have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So these green bookmarks, remember I had a subset of this in my assignments. So I can either bookmark or not bookmark one just to keep it manageable within my own. Remember with the assignments, we only saw about 10 of them. So right now this one is within my list. Now it's not in my list anymore.
Okay.
And then finally, you can create your own feedback if you'd like. So you just give it a name. Then you decide if it's public or not. So there are other types of feedback in the platform that people do not want to share, and that's totally up to you. So the ones that we see here are public ones.
Well, so I'm sorry. Finish that. I was going to jump in with a note on that.
No, please.
Oh, what was so Mike and I both came to a recent essay by Ethan Malik, where he's talking about, I'm going to butcher the word because I'd never seen it before.
Oh, the Grimoires or the
grimoires or something. It's like basically a spell book is what he's calling them.
Index.
Yeah, and he's basically saying what would be great is for, I think I don't know if it's necessarily in education, but definitely businesses. And I think the next step is like educations or departments creating their own kind of spell books, if you will, of prompts that work and that are effective. And so it seems to me with this, if you're using yours and it's if you don't want it public, make it private, you could have yours private towards, and I'm assuming you could share it with people like within your departments. Like at Mike and my school, we could say, hey, our department has our own prompts, and then you've got that available to you. No one else can has access if you don't want them to. But is that, you're nodding? Yeah, like that sounds right.
Nodding, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to put it on my little list here.
Sweet.
So private by groups. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think that actually makes sense because, you know, definitely different high schools, colleges, they definitely have a different culture in terms of, you know, what they want the feedback to either have or not have. And quite frankly, maybe you don't want to share your type of feedback with other people for whatever reason, and that's totally fine.
Right. Well, not to mention you have different levels, different courses. You might need to modify them just a little bit for whatever thing, or you just change stuff up. The curriculum just shifts, you know, and you just want to modify it. So that's all helpful. Great. I didn't mean to derail you too much. So you're talking about the public domain and license and private domain option.
Exactly. So basically, again, the public one means if you want to share it or not, you get to choose what your license is for it. And I have information about the different licenses here for people to read about.
Okay.
And then you decide what your instructions are. So my prompt, I'm going to make it a little silly, but find 2 positive things about this essay. So that's my feedback.
Sure.
Then guardrails, I have it set up so that if students ask any questions not related to your instructions, the AI system's going to say, sorry, I can't talk to you about cats. You ask about cats. Then the guidelines, you could think of this as like a meta piece of information that gets carried through the entire conversation. So, for example, you're an English teacher teaching a first-year composition class. Provide helpful feedback to the student, but don't provide specific rewrites, even if asked. This will be carried through the conversation. So once I do that, I can grab some content to test it out. And it's probably a good idea to test out your prompt to see if it is responding in a way that you're expecting. So here,
sorry. Well, I was going to say, as this is kind of generating response for the audience there. So this idea that you're specifically telling it not to provide rewrites is super helpful if you're trying to prevent concerns of plagiarism, and you want it to function as an actual tutor, right? Exactly. An AI tutor. So that's the key kind of thing there, because I know that obviously we talked ad nauseum about the concerns with plagiarism and just passing the AI off work as your own, but that's one kind of almost like a fail safe or like a check or a guardrail, if you will, to kind of just say, no, we actually want you to use this as a tool, and the system will actually build that guardrail in for you if you want to do that. So that's quite helpful.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So it did what it was asked. It gave 2 positive aspects, and it also gave 3 suggestions for improvement.
Okay.
So at this point, if I'm happy with it, I can save it. I'm not going to save it because this is a silly one. But the bottom line is some name would then pop up as a new type of feedback because that's what I called it. And I would be able to use it, and other people would be able to use it because I had set this as public.
Okay.
So that's the gist of it. But yeah, that's the other piece of the puzzle. Creating a feedback type, if you're interested, to use within your assignment.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. Mike had mentioned before that I was playing around with it. It's been we just started the school year, so we've been pulled in which direction you can imagine, and then some. And Mike and I are working on some stuff with our Discord right now. We're really excited about. But I remember when I was going through it, and I had it look at. Actually, it was funny is I took a ChatGPT essay.
Oh yeah.
That incidentally, I don't know if I mentioned in a previous episode. I actually had put it in to was it 0GPT to see if it could detect it, and it said it was 100% human. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got to. I think somebody can prove me wrong in this, but I feel like the whole plagiarism thing, it's a losing battle in terms of determining whether it's tough. And the problem is there are some students who actually, I'm sure, write in the style of ChatGPT. That's just how they write. So that's I've read articles about this. It's kind of problematic. I think the plagiarism thing. It's like it's the wrong question to ask. It's almost like that's why again I'm jazzed on this, which is more how can we kind of turn it around to something positive?
Well, so taking that into account, if that's the wrong question to ask, what do you think the right question to ask would be then? Is it more about focusing on like process or something else? I mean,
that's exactly what I should be used for, and I use it all the time. When I'm coding, it's not doing the whole program for me, but within the process, if I have questions, I can't quite figure this piece out. It's allowing me to move past that and perhaps focus on more important things that I should be focusing on.
Well, and the thing I want to kind of add too is when I was playing around with it, it was I plugged in this ChatGPT essay, and it gave me some really good it was a kind of like the comprehensive sort of feedback that I think Anna Mills had put together. And then I thought, well, I want to take a look at the thesis, much like you were just doing there, and it was so detailed, and it gave so much great information, and it gave options, right? So it would be like, you could take your essay in this direction or that direction or a few others. And I said, okay, well, and I looked at one of them and I said, well, I think I said something like, how would you generate this thesis using, say, like rhetorical questions or something like that? And it gave me that. And then, but it kept like giving me different sort of like approaches and ways that I could develop it and explain why they work, which I thought was just excellent. And it was so cogent and clear that I was like, oh man, I'm like that. And it was the explanations. I think this is where Mike and I were particularly impressed, is that it's not just a matter of being fast, like that's part of it, but it's also just really good feedback
Right.
and better than what I can put together. I mean, and so like why wouldn't we use it? And that's the thing that I think when teachers can see the capabilities of these AI programs, and ISA feedback just does it so darn well. I mean, we were showing it to our district people and like, oh my God, this is nuts. And one of them actually used to work in English at our sister school, and she was just like, "Oh man," she's like, "That's really impressive." And we're like,
She
"This
instantly
is
saw the
huge.
use.
This is huge." And so I'm just really, really excited about trying to integrate this. I honestly, in some ways, more than ChatGPT itself, because for English teachers, anyways, I think this is huge. I mean, it is. I can see this working so easily in so many different contexts. Anyhow, I
Yeah.
don't know if Mike wants to maybe jump
Uh,
in or chime in, or if Eric, you want
that's
to.
pretty funny because my computer just totally
I know. I
crashed.
was trying to
Yeah,
hold on for you.
it blue screened on me, and I'm
Oh
like,
no.
and then it did the thing that always does, is like once it crashed and rebooted, it was like, well, we have to update the whole system.
Oh Lord.
Right, right.
Oh man.
Right?
Yep,
Didn't ask
yep.
me. It's like, we're gonna update. I'm like, okay. I have no idea what the past 10 minutes has been.
We've
I
been just
know it
talking about
was
the meaning of life. We solved
erudite
it. Don't
and
worry about it.
interesting and
We've been
probably
talking about
solved
hiking.
everything. So since I'm coming from a place of ignorance now, I have to ask this and see if you guys covered it. Eric, what do you do as far as student privacy?
That's a great question. So again, I teach, so I'm very aware of student privacy issues, and I've also worked on several projects which have had student data. So couple of things. So first off, and every website should be doing this, but all data is encrypted as it is in transit. Data is encrypted at rest. So basically what that means is that the database has an encryption on it. So if somebody just kind of got into the server, they wouldn't be able to, all the data would be gobbledygook to them.
Okay.
The Chat GPT itself, people should be aware of this, and hopefully they are from the discussion. But basically what happens is the essay gets sent off to Chat GPT. So it gets sent out off to the company to do the processing. So as long as the student doesn't put identifying information on the essay, then that information doesn't get sent off. In addition, when you access ChatGPT through something called an API, which basically means a third party like myself, then ChatGPT does not use that data on their training. So anything you type into ChatGPT on the website, they actually use that to improve their models. But if you do it through the API, or again through a third party like myself, that information doesn't get kind of thrown into the general mix.
And do you think they're on the up and up with that? Like, do you think they're on the up and up with that?
I do think they are. I mean, that would be a major, major, major lawsuit if they were not.
Yeah. Okay.
So does that mean, Eric, that like because I imagine a lot of people are coming to AI stuff through a variety of ways. I'm thinking about people on their cell phones, and there are a lot of people that just put together like some nonsense platform that's actually ChatGPT, but they kind of make it look like it's something new and it's really not. But you're saying with those programs, even like they're not actually, that information is not actually going to OpenAI. It's staying within whatever the developer has created, like their particular app or website or what have you. Is that what I'm hearing, or no?
So student uploads essay to or any third party that integrates with OpenAI. The data does get sent off to OpenAI, but then OpenAI doesn't take that and use it to then further in the model.
Okay.
And they have that on their website, and I have a link to that also on
Right.
my faculty page.
Well, and in fairness, it would seem to me that they would be honest about that in the sense of, Mike, what was the thing that you were talking about where they had put it up? Oh, it was that they had like was it ChatGPT that had some other program that had like OpenAI had like a grader or a detector, I think it was, and you're like, oh, it's not actually working, so they took it down. Was that
OpenAI, like they're like, we can detect.
Right.
No, we can't.
Right.
So they took
So
it
they're
down.
just like,
and
just drop it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So they're trying to do the right thing, it sounds like.
Well, it's kind of a legal issue. They need to be doing the right thing. If they say that
Fair.
they're not, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
it'd be a huge lawsuit.
Like any I don't sell student data, give it to any third parties. That's not really what I'm interested in. I'm an educator at heart, and in terms of privacy security, I do everything that I'm aware of that can be done to basically keep student information safe within the context of my application, and my server, et cetera, and whatever gets sent off to OpenAI, again, by their privacy policy, they don't kind of mix stuff around. So as long as students don't put their own names on the essays, then that information won't be sent off.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty as locked down as it can be.
It's as locked down as it can be. Yeah, I use Amazon, AWS, and they have a very, very strong security measures that one could put in place. I never share passwords. All passwords in my database are hashed, which basically means even if somehow somebody could get into the database, they get the emails, you can't get anybody's passwords, which is very good security because a lot of times people use the same password on a site they're in, which I would not recommend, but people do it.
Password 123, right? That's
oh wait, how'd you know my password?
QWERTY 1 2 3 4 5.
No, mine is SDF.
Right.
I was going to guess that or blah 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 blah.
Okay. So Pat, you probably have to take. I missed so much the last 10 minutes. Like,
well, we were talking a fair. Feel free, Eric, to remind me. It's like the end of the week. My brain's becoming mush all of a sudden. But we're talking about kind of the way that I was using it, and just some of the features on my essay feedback, and just kind of clarifying some things with that. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to specify, Eric. But
I think the other thing we were just talking about how you can create your own feedback, or you can use, and I went through that process, or you can use people who are willing to share their feedback. Their types of feedback with other people.
Okay. Then what's kind of next with what's your next thing? My essay feedback, or you have other things, other ideas going on, or
in general, or
I'm gonna start a band.
I want to see where this tool goes. I mean, everybody that I've introduced it to so far has just been super excited about it. It's been kind of humbling. I've made several applications in the past, and I just feel like this one is the first one that people actually have an emotional response to. It's like the first time you get that feedback, it's like, wow, it's a little scary, it's exciting, and I'm kind of excited about that. What I guess the next stage for me is I'm kind of in waiting mode, so that in about a month or two, I'm going to meet up with or send out an invitation. I'd love to meet up with all the instructors who are currently using it to try to come up with some sort of best practices and what works, what doesn't work. I'm always excited about creating new features. I really like that. So the other next thing is, as people start using it and they say, hey, could we have this sort of thing? Then I'll start filling in those details.
Well, so with that kind of that point, is it correct that you've been in contact, you're trying to work with Canvas a little bit too, in terms of like integrating there, or no?
So I actually did. So it's totally integrated with Canvas, Blackboard, and Moodle.
Right.
And I just got some. There's like a testing. There's a process I need to get it hooked up with D2L. So I hope to have that. It's D2L Brightspace. It's another
one of those things. Yeah.
It's another one. Yeah.
Right.
And I hope to have that one set up next week.
Okay.
And for folks who do use the LMS, a benefit of that is basically students never even have to go to the website, My Essay Feedback. All they do is they just go into Canvas, they just go into the assignment, and boom, they're logged in and all set up. And then there's a grade passback. So if you do the completed option or even the manual option, when you complete the grade, it gets sent back to the LMS.
Wow, very cool.
So I think maybe this is more for Pat. We're hoping to pilot it. Maybe Pat, you're wanting to jump on it. So maybe you do the web version and I'll do the LMS version, and we'll see where that goes. Maybe. All right. I'm like more excited to try out this program than I was like before the show. Like I was excited. I think you've done really fantastic work. Like I think for anyone who teaches writing or deals with writing, I think that feedback and process is the most important part. And coming from the English teacher perspective, like I think any English teacher like is going to immediately understand the use of this. But as I sit here thinking about it, I was like, history teachers that write papers, you could certainly put a prompt in, like probably science lab writing. Like there is like our AP Psych teacher, like there is a lot that can be learned from your program. And so thank you so much for coming on and building something like it's just I think it's one of those things that's just gonna like make my job a little better, a little easier, and serve my students in a more individualized way than I can do. Like it's just all upside, you know? So thanks a lot, Eric, for coming on and showing us My Essay Feedback.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun talking to both of you guys.
This is great.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
All right. That's the show. That was Mr. Eric Keene coming out of Bellingham, Washington. Check out My Essay Feedback. It's a cool program for sure. Totally useful. As usual, if you've got AI-friendly friends, educators, anyone interested in AI, please share the show with them. Give us some stars, like it, spread it. Check out the Facebook page that Mr. Pat runs. Catch us on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. I don't even know. Do you tweet? Do you X? Who knows? Reach out to us on any of those channels, or you can drop us a line on our Google form on the RSS feed. Have a great week. See you next time. Bye-bye.